So a very interesting topic here. And a lot of people have many opinions about this particular topic of ethics. Before I begin, let me introduce myself once again. For those who don't know who I am, my name is Andre, and I'm from a small island called Barbados in the Caribbean. So, yeah, from a tiny little island to a big metropolitan city like Rome. So, I'm grateful to be here in Rome. I'm grateful to be here in Italy, and I love the people. And I love the history and the architecture. I love the city. It's one of my favorite cities in the world. Okay, so let's begin talking about ethics. So let's begin. In this focus activity, we're talking about ethics, language for honest and dishonest business practices. Some very interesting discussion this will encourage. Yeah, so talking about ethics, what is ethics though? What is the word ethics? What is the meaning of the word ethics? Now, let's look at it from the dictionary side of things. Yeah, what does the dictionary say about ethics? Now, ethics, it says, basically is moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. So it's moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. So it's like rules, basically, like rules you follow in terms of behavior, how to act, how to behave, what is right from what is wrong. So that's basically what ethics is. Yeah. Or it could be a branch of knowledge that deals with morals and principles. So ethics can be a subject, or ethics could be a noun in relation to those principles. Good. Excellent. So we understand what ethics means. Now, let's look at this, or these two questions rather. What are the qualities of an ethical company, and what are the qualities of an unethical company? So remember, the opposite of ethical is unethical. Yeah, great. So let's look at the first question. So, what are the qualities of an ethical company? So let's look at it. What do you think makes a company an ethical company? A company that uh, thinks and reacts and works in a positive way. Yeah, that is fair, that is not negative. So, what are some of those positive qualities that a company can have? Ethical qualities that a company can have. So, let's look at it. So, first quality I can think about is a company that pays their employees what they're worth. I think it's very ethical to pay the people there that work for them in a fair manner. Yeah. So don't underpay your employees, but pay them what they're worth, basically. So an ethical company will be honest with their employees and, of course, treat them well with compensation, with the appropriate compensation. On the other hand, a company that's unethical is a company that does not pay their employees what they're worth. They treat their employees terribly. So in that case, that's an ethical side of a company and the unethical side of a company. So fair payment, fair compensation, and on the contrary, unfair compensation or treatment of the employees. Now, what else can we think of? What are the qualities that a company that's ethical can portray? So we had compensation, paying your employees good salary. Another good quality of an ethical company is one that does not engage in illegal practices. So a company that performs legal transactions, perform legal actions and not illegal. So the illegal aspect of it would make it an unethical company, while a company that does legal procedures and follows the rules is an ethical company as well. What else can we look at in terms of qualities of an ethical company? For example, a company that, let's see, a company that doesn't skip corners yeah, when trying to do business. For example, in terms of negotiating, maybe a company that negotiates in a fair manner and doesn't take advantage of people is an ethical company. Well, on the other hand, a company that takes advantage of people, especially in negotiations, especially when they're not very how should I say, not very honest in that in terms of their negotiations, normally it's an unethical company. So those are some examples of ethical qualities and unethical qualities of a company. So first one we had for ethical, we had fair payment of employees, paying employees what they're worth and treating them well. On the other hand, unethical, not paying employees or workers uh, fair or balanced compensation or salary. The next quality we had was, in terms of good quality, is performing legal activities. So companies engaged in legal activities, their day-to-day work is all legal. While on the other, an unethical company is a company that engages in illegal activities. Yeah. Then we looked at negotiations or dealing with people, companies that are honest with their clients can be an ethical company, and an unethical company would be one that is dishonest with their clients. Maybe they're negotiating and they're being dishonest in their negotiations, or they're being unfair in their negotiations. So those are just some examples of uh, qualities of an ethical company and qualities of an unethical company. Cool, good. Remember, if you're with us, don't hesitate to tell me your name and where you're from. That would be very good. Thank you. So let's look at the next slide. So we have ethical or unethical. So we have to look at these different things and we have to decide which one is ethical and which one is unethical. So let's look at them. We've got phone hacking or tapping, commission, whitewash. Hi, Giuseppe. Welcome from Milan. We've got confidentiality agreement, debacle, whistleblower, compensation, trustworthy employees, slush fund, disclosure, inside trading, fraud, cover up, law abiding citizen, industrial espionage, and bribery. So these are some big words here, huh? So some new vocabulary that some of you might not be familiar with. So let's look and see, oops, let's go back, sorry. Let's look and see which ones are ethical and which ones are unethical. Now let's look at phone hacking and tapping. What is phone hacking and tapping? Basically, phone tapping or hacking is when you have maybe an organization listening in on your telephone conversations. So they put a bug on your phone so that they can listen to your conversation. Some people do that. So will you say that's ethical or unethical? Giuseppe, what's your opinion? Is phone hacking and tapping ethical or unethical? So you're putting a bug on someone's phone or you're putting a bug in someone's house so you can hear their conversation without them knowing. I think it's something negative. So I would say it's unethical. So phone hacking and tapping would be unethical because you're doing something without someone's permission. You know, you're sneaking around trying to get information without a person's approval. So phone hacking and tapping would be, in my eyes, unethical. Now let's look at commission. Commission. Excellent, Giuseppe. So it's unethical. Commission. So what is commission? A commission is basically money that you make from the amount of work that you do. So a commission is basically what an employee makes based on how much work they do. So if you do less work, you get less commission. If you do more work, you get more commission. That's ethical and ethical. What do you think? Ethical or unethical? For me, commission is ethical because you're working, you're being paid what you're working, how you're working. So if you're not working, you're not going to be paid. If you're working, you will be paid. So in this sense, it's fair and it's ethical. my eyes. Okay, whitewash. Now, this one is a word that is used frequently in English. Let me look for the exact translation, the exact definition for you. For whitewash, just want to be sure. So whitewash is basically a victory by the same side in every game of a series. So maybe, for example, uh, you have a football match, and this particular football team is constantly winning every game of the series. So in this case, a whitewash meaning that person takes all of the winnings or all of the victory, or in this case, maybe in a business, maybe a business takes advantage of all the clients, and the other competitors, have lost clients. So whitewash could be a sense where you take everything. In this case, it could be unethical in this particular situation, where you take advantage of everything and you leave your competitors without anything. Or you can say maybe it was a situation where this company was very greedy and decided to take everything and not think of everyone else or anyone else. So in this case, it would be unethical, meaning you take everything for yourself, basically. Confidentiality agreement. Now, this one can be debatable because it can cause many problems. Some companies usually make their employees sign a contract, a confidentiality contract or an agreement, so that they don't give out their secrets to other companies that are their competitors. In this case, it can also be used to keep someone's important information secret so others don't get it. So it depends on how it's used. But in most cases, it's ethical. Giuseppe, this one is ethical. Whitewash is unethical. Taking everything for yourself is very selfish. It's not ethical. It's unethical. But confidentiality agreement, in this sense, could be an ethical situation because it's keeping people's important information very secret, and you're confiding, that person's confiding in you, or maybe the employees of a company are confiding in their company to keep their information safe. Or, for example, you might have maybe purchased something from a company, they want to use your phone number, your email address, maybe there's some very sensitive information they want, but they have a confidentiality clause where you can sign saying, okay, I want my information to stay confidential. I don't want everyone seeing my information. So in this sense, it's an ethical thing for companies to do, to keep their employees or keep people's information very secret. Let's look at debacle. Debacle. A debacle is a negative, meaning it's a negative situation. Let's look at the definition. Debacle. So a debacle basically is a sudden failure. For example, the only man to reach double figures in the second innings. I think they're talking about baseball. Debacle was that particular guy. So, for example, a debacle is basically confusion, something that has failed. So a debacle is, in that sense, something negative. Let's look and see if we can find another definition for it. They say, for example, a great disaster. A debacle is a great disaster, a complete failure. So, yeah, so a debacle in this case is, it's very strange, this word to be used, whether it's ethical or unethical. But normally a debacle is a negative situation. It's a terrible failure of something, and maybe you can say unethical per se. Unethical. Whistleblower, a whistleblower. Now, whistleblower is someone who gives out a secret. Yeah, the person who tells the secret, or who is the one that reported the situation. So in this sense, it could be unethical because you're telling people's secrets or giving up people's confidential information. So in this sense, I would say unethical. Whistleblower, someone who gives out the secret, the person who is the one that reported you or whatever. So that's usually a whistleblower. Sometimes a whistleblower is someone who is not the most trustworthy person, not very trusting. So I would say that's more unethical. Compensation, compensation could be ethical or unethical depending on a company, depending on how a company pays an employee, like what we mentioned before. So giving an employee less compensation than what they're worth or what they're working for is unethical, while giving an employee compensation that is, in line or fair to what they're working for, or even more, is ethical. It's more positive in this sense. Trustworthy employees, ethical. You want people that are trusting, that you can trust. So trustworthy employees are ethical people, ethical employees. Slush fund. Now, I'm not so sure about slush fund. I'll look for the definition for you. A slush fund. Slush fund. So a slush fund is a reserve of money used for illicit purposes, especially political bribery. So it's a stash of money that maybe companies can put one side to do illegal activities, especially for like political bribing, for bribing politicians to do what they want. So in this sense, slush fund is unethical. Yeah, it's unethical. Yeah. Let's look at disclosure. So now disclosure, disclosure is, let's see, the act or the instance of disclosing or exposure or revelation, that which is disclosed or revelation. So for example, you're telling someone something, you're disclosing something very important. So you're exposing something to someone. So you're telling someone something. So it's a disclosure. You're giving them the information. So it depends. It could be ethical or unethical, depending on what you're using it for, what you're using the information for. Antonio, welcome again. You always find me. I'm your favorite teacher. Flattery will get you nowhere. Oh, happy birthday. Today's your birthday. Cool. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I'm not going to sing anymore. It's not time for singing. But happy birthday, Antonio. I hope you're having a great day. And I hope you're not eating too much cake or behaving too badly. Don't drink too much either. Yeah. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, the rest of your day. And of course, the long weekend ahead. You can celebrate all weekend long. Yeah, enjoy. So let's continue. So we're looking at inside trading. So inside trading is a very, very illegal activity, because normally companies like hedge fund companies and companies that do trading on the stock exchange, some of them engage in insider trading, but they're very secretive about it, which means they get certain information about other companies or stocks in order to buy or to sell stocks to gain profit for the company. So insider trading is an unethical activity. Yeah, it's illegal. It's illegal to engage in insider trading, especially on the stock exchange, like Wall Street and those guys. So let's look at fraud now. Fraud. You're welcome, Antonio. I'm sorry I don't have a gift for you. I have to look around and see if I can find anything to give you. Later. Alrighty, so fraud. Fraud is a very important action, and it's an illegal action. You hear people talking about fraud a lot. Fraud in relation to companies, in terms of some billionaires and millionaires and rich people. Sometimes they engage in fraud. But a lot of businesses, have been caught engaging in fraud as well, in fraudulent activities. So in this case, fraud is unethical. Now let's look at a cover-up. So for example, a cover-up could be maybe an activity that was illegal, and maybe a company or someone is trying to hide it. So trying to hide something that was illegally done is called a cover-up. Or for example, you go shoot someone, you kill someone, and then you cover it up, meaning you try to hide all the evidence, try to hide all of the information. So that would be a cover-up. And a cover-up is usually unethical because normally it's associated with a negative activity or action. Let's look at law-abiding citizen. Now, law-abiding citizen is positive because it means that a person or a citizen of the country is following the laws of the country or following the rules. So it's positive. So this is ethical. A law-abiding citizen would be ethical. Yeah, someone who always follows the law. Industrial espionage. So this one is interesting. Industrial espionage. When you know what espionage is, when you purposely create chaos, basically. You purposely cause a negative action or negative result, which is espionage. Industrial espionage, though, is a little more specific. So let's look deeper into what it means. So industrial espionage. Yes, industrial espionage is spying directed towards discovering the secrets of a rival manufacturer or other industrial companies. So it's kind of like insider trading, per se, in a sense, but it's mainly from the industries like manufacturers and different industrial companies that discover or try to spy or discover secrets of another company that they're competing with. And of course, trying to use that information purposely use that information against their competition in order to make profits, in order to come out on top. So basically, it's similar to like insider trading, but it's more specifically towards the industrial companies like manufacturers and maybe they're like fashion manufacturers or soft drink manufacturers, different industries that produce products, etc. So industrial espionage is when you're trying to find secrets of a competing company to, how should you say, to either create a situation where they lose profits while you gain more profits from your discovery of their secrets. So let's look at bribery. So bribery is related to slush fund, which is some money. So the slush fund is the money, but the bribery is the action of influencing maybe a politician, maybe someone that is maybe in government or someone that has a high position to help you into get what you want, basically. So a bribery, of course, is something that you do in order to get someone to do what you want. So you can bribe someone or bribe a company with money, you can bribe a politician with money, or you can bribe them with an expensive car or a house or objects or expensive things. So bribery is the action of influencing people, companies into doing what you want them to do by giving them some level of compensation to do that action, to do that particular activity. So these are some ethical and unethical situations that some companies can be engaged in. And sometimes it depends on the situation. Some could be ethical, some could be unethical. It depends. Alrighty, so let's look. We're going to skip this one. So let's look at this one. Taking an extra long break, taking sick days, using the company resources for personal use, working 80 hours a week, nepotism, claiming extra expenses, cutting corners at work. Good. So let's look at these particular situations and decide if they're ethical or if they're unethical. So let's look at taking an extra long lunch break. Do you think that is ethical or that is unethical? So taking an extra long break, is it ethical or is it unethical? In my opinion, taking an extra long lunch break is unethical because at the end of the day, you're working for a particular number of hours for the company and usually they give you a set time, a specific time to do your lunch, to do your break. But if you go over that time, you're disrespecting the company because you're not doing your work effectively because you're taking a long lunch break. It's not part of your contract, taking long lunch breaks, unless it's in your contract. But taking an extra long lunch break is unethical, Giuseppe, correct? Giuseppe says it's unethical, and you're correct. Now let's look at taking sick days. Is it ethical or is it unethical? Now this one can go either way depending on the situation. For example, if you're taking too many sick days and you're not sick, then that is unethical. But if you're taking sick days and you are sick, it is ethical because you are taking the sick days for that purpose, because you're sick. But some people take sick days because they are not sick. And a lot of people do it because maybe they have something to do, they have somewhere to go. So they take a sick day because they need that time to do certain things. So as Giuseppe says, it depends on the reality of the situation. Excellent. So it depends on the situation. It could be ethical or it could be unethical in the sense that you're not taking the days because you're sick, but because you want to do other things. Let's look at using the company resources for personal use. This one, I mean, a lot of us do it. A lot of us have done it. Use the company resources, whether it's stationery, paper, maybe printing, maybe doing other things as well. But it depends on the situation. If the company allows you to do it, well, then sure, it's ethical. But if you overdo it or exaggerate, then it could be unethical because most companies don't want you to use their resources for your own personal use. They're there to be used for the company. So in this case, it could be unethical unless the company is okay with you using the resources for your personal use. Next one, nepotism. So let's look at this particular one. So nepotism, what is it? So basically, nepotism is the practice among those with power or influence of favoring relatives or friends, especially in relation to giving them jobs. So nepotism, a lot of politicians do this as well. So politicians get into power and they get their friends and their family jobs that other people are more qualified for. So this is an example of nepotism. So, you're yes, you want to help people out. You want to help your family, you want to help your friends out. But at the same time, don't use your powers to take advantage of the situation. So nepotism is just that, using your power, using, what you have to to put your family, your friends in positions that other people are more qualified for, or that other people deserve more in this case. So that is unethical. So let's look at claiming extra expenses. So is this ethical or is this unethical? Claiming extra expenses. What do you think, Giuseppe? Claiming extra expenses. Is it ethical or is it unethical? Give you a couple seconds. So I know there's a delay. Give you time to answer. So when you look at it, it depends again on the situation. So maybe you're claiming extra expenses from your company that you didn't have. Maybe it's a fake expense that you're claiming. In that sense, it's unethical. But if you're claiming extra expenses that you would have done for the company, in terms of working for the company, you spent your own money, you can claim those expenses, and that's ethical. But if you're claiming something that does not exist, it means that you're being unethical. So expenses would be extra. For example, you might have gone and you might have bought lunch for your co-workers for the company using your money. That would be expenses. you're using your own money to buy stuff for the company. That would be expenses. So for example, when the company does their payroll, when they're calculating your salary, you can claim for that money. You can claim back for the money you spent on behalf of the company. So those would be expenses, which is the money that you would have spent for the company that they need to give you back. So if you claim expenses that do not exist, it's of course unethical because you're robbing the company. But if you're claiming extra expenses that you would have actually done, then it is ethical. Yeah, so that's what expenses mean, Giuseppe. Hope you understand. So let's look at the last one. We've got cutting corners at work. Cutting corners. What does cutting corners mean? So cutting corners basically mean trying to find the simplest way to complete an action. And normally the simplest way is not always the best, or the easiest way is not always the best solution. So in some circumstances, people try to find the easiest way not to do so much work, which is cutting corners, to complete an action or activity. For example, you might be doing a company, for example, might be building a new office. So in order not to spend a lot of money and to find an easier way and a cheaper way of building the office complex or the building, you find the cheapest material that you can buy. And that cheap material might not be the strongest or the best quality. So in the end, you're trying to cut corners by cutting costs, but the quality of the product is less. The quality is terrible. So for example, you might be building a building, an office building, and you're using cheap materials, and then you find a big crack in the wall, and the walls start to crumble, and then the whole building falls down. So that is a result of sometimes cutting corners. In most cases, it's unethical because you're putting other people at risk when you're buying inferior materials and that are not strong enough, that can't last. And in that sense, you're cutting corners in that sense. So the opposite of climb the ladder, the opposite of climbing the ladder. So climbing the ladder means, of course, to be promoted. Climbing the ladder in terms of promotion, you're going to a higher position in your work. And the opposite would be demotion, being demoted. So which means you're going backwards. You're being demoted to a lesser or a lower level of your position at work. So it's a demotion when you go down a level from your work position, and you are climbing the ladder or being promoted when you go up another level in your job position. So that's the difference between the two. Alrighty, good, excellent. So we looked at those. Some are ethical, some are unethical. So we say taking an extra long lunch break is unethical. Taking sick days can be ethical or unethical. It depends on if you're really taking those sick days. Using the company resources for personal use is usually unethical because you're not really supposed to use the company's resources for your own personal use. Working 80 hours a week, I forgot this one. Working 80 hours a week, it depends again, because normally the average hours are usually 40 hours a week. Working 80 hours a week is a lot of work. And in some cases, companies want people to work these hours. For me, I think it's unethical to work 80 hours a week. It's too much. You're going to be too tired. 40 hours a week is usually the standard or the average hours a week. So working 80 hours a week is unethical. It's too much. Yeah. So we look at nepotism, where people take advantage of their power by finding positions for their friends and for their family without thinking about others who really need the work and who qualify for the work as well. So using your power for your own personal gain by helping your family and friends. Claiming extra expenses can be ethical once you do have those expenses. It's unethical when you're claiming expenses that do not exist. And cutting corners is usually not the best thing to do because it means that the result of your work is not very good quality. So it's unethical to cut corners in this sense. Do what you have to do to the best of your ability and with the best quality possible. So cutting corners is not an ethical situation. Excellent. Cool. So let's look at some of these situations. So we got ethics in different industries. So which industries have more responsibility to be ethical, and which sectors commonly show the most corruption? Do you agree with how offenders are punished? How are normal law-abiding citizens affected? So let's look at these